Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's virtual panel presentation. Our team members include Trent Ryderson Moss, Jennifer Ferris, and John Borman. Our panel objectives today are to define leadership, social justice, and activism. We're going to provide some historical background of the interplay, and we're going to examine some examples of some challenges, some failures, and successes. We'll address how the constructs can work together, and we'll close by providing some recommendations for how to advance this within an educational setting. The first theme we'll examine is leadership. Northouse defines leadership as a process by which an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. Effective leaders must first clearly define what the common goal is. All the individuals must then work collectively towards that same common purpose. When the goal is social justice through activism, the achievement of the goal is only as successful as everyone's determination for social justice and the willingness to participate in the work of activism. Leadership, therefore, takes on the role of growing individuals through critical discourse and culturally relevant pedagogy. Hutchison and White define social justice as justice in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society. For the purpose of this panel discussion, we have highlighted 4 key concepts in relation to social justice. They are inequity, inequality, oppression, and privilege. Inequity exists when there is an instance of injustice or unfairness. Teach for America states that educational inequity is tied to a lack of educational resources, which can include the allocation of school funding, teachers, supplies, facilities, and more. Inequality is when there is a social disparity or an unequal distribution of opportunities. These issues could be racial, gender, or class-based disparities. Oppression is the unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power. Passive oppression, or the power of silence, can contribute to incidents of racism and privilege in the classroom. Northouse defines privilege as an advantage held by a person or group that is based on age, race, ethnicity, gender, or class, which ultimately gives those who have power over those who do not. Leaders must leverage their privilege to give a voice to those not heard. Silence is not a viable solution as an agent for change.
There are varying definitions of activism, but most scholars agree that activism has the following components. Activism takes many forms and occurs in actions both large and small. That is, activism can be considered a spectrum. Some people are more involved than others. Activism may be individual or collective, or both. Educational activism can be considered a form or extension of social activism, and educational activism is also intentional. Some examples of educational activism include adopting anti-racist curriculum, multicultural education that is not superficial, meaning it goes beyond just celebrating holidays and heroes in a very passé way. And it also involves ongoing consciousness about one's own biases and examining how that affects one's practice.
If we look at the intersection between leadership, activism, and social justice, we'll find that there's an area where you can be an agent for change. We're going to examine some of the challenges, failures, and successes of the interplay of leadership, activism, and social justice. Within the interplay of social justice, leadership, and activism exists an ideal educational philosophy centered on equality and equity. There's a belief that each student can succeed at his or her own ability, with unique goals and measures of success. Socioeconomics, race, and gender do not interfere with the measure of the whole child. The challenge to this ideologic educational perspective is the current competitive, one-standard-fits-all, data-driven climate we currently serve. The system, and therefore the leadership of the system, while knowing the science of what is best for children, acts in cowardice. The challenge is a system that knows what is best for children but refuses to be child-focused.
Some failures that I have seen in my time at 2 charter schools, one in rural Delaware and one in urban Philadelphia, are the same. Number one is that diversity initiatives are often hollow and done for optics or to quote unquote check off a box to say that the school did it and the school is in compliance with whatever regulations are in place or whatever social expectations exist. Beyond shallow diversity initiatives like a couple meetings or a toothless committee, there is little or no ongoing diversity training throughout the year or throughout a teacher's career. There is also very little or no input from students, especially students of color. To echo an observation by Blair in 2020, students of color often feel neglected by their schools, which I have seen in action at my own school when my school failed to adequately address the racial uprisings in Philadelphia during the summer of 2020. Many students reported to counselors that they felt the school had neglected them and they felt ignored and unimportant.
As we sought out examples of successful interplay of activism, leadership, and social justice, I wanted to examine some of the recent advancements and programs in place of the United States Military Academy at West Point. While the Army is an apolitical entity by nature, the Academy leadership has realized that we must address issues of social justice as they exist at our school and also throughout our society. The Academy has taken on a multiple level approach. The student body has started a few grassroots movements to help ignite an awareness for our leadership of some of the social justice issues at the Academy. Recently, a group of alumni challenged the Academy to create an anti-racist program at the school. This call to action has created diversity discussions and social justice panels led by student leadership. The staff and faculty have created leadership challenge forums throughout the year to address ethical dilemmas using real-world situations. West Point has most recently stood up a character integration assessment group to evaluate the programs that are used to develop character across the 4 domains of the Academy: military, physical, academic, and leadership. The Academy is also leading the way in the commissioning of more women into combat arms than any other commissioning source. The Academy is actively seeking opportunities to reduce and remove racism and inequality within its program. Senior leadership is taking time to allow leaders to sit down and have difficult conversations with the students about race, sexual assault, sexual harassment, privilege, diversity, and social unrest in our campus as well as in our communities. As we look for the way ahead, we must ask ourselves, can education change society? One would hope that a few adjustments can bring about real change. For starters, we suggest the removal of school rating systems that can negatively influence students and school preference. We ask that our educators adopt a comprehensive whole student model geared towards education and educational needs. We ask that school leadership ensures full, adequate, and equitable services for all students. We also suggest the removal of generic standards which only marginalize and demoralize struggling and failing schools. And most important, we demand that district and state leadership believes in breaking the patterns of systemic racism and poverty. As we continue to seek out methods for implementing social changes, Northhouse offers some leadership practices that can help advance diversity and inclusion in the classroom. Listed are 6 components and examples for creating an exclusive experience for all members. Number 1, feeling safe. Do I help others express opposing opinions without fear of repercussion? Number 2, feeling involved and engaged. Do I help others feel like they are part of the team? Number 3, feeling respected and valued. Do I follow the golden rule? Do I treat others how I expect to be treated? Feeling influential. Do I let others participate in the decision-making process? Number 5, feeling authentic and whole. Do I encourage others to be honest and transparent? And last, number 6, recognizing, attending to, and honoring diversity. Do I treat everyone fairly without discrimination?
Some recommendations we have to make our schools more inclusive are the following: to have regular and ongoing diversity and anti-racist training delivered by outside agencies and spearheaded by people of color. In-school administrators, particularly white administrators or teachers, should not be the ones to deliver this training. Schools should also make a concerted and ongoing effort to gather and implement student, parent, and community feedback. They should also build and cultivate community partnerships and also encourage collaboration and sharing resources among teachers.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are our resources. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our panel discussion on activism, social justice, and leadership.